West Asia is counting the days. Last week's ceasefire appears to have stuck. Compared to the last war in 2014, things are already looking better. Back then, Israel and Hamas negotiated 8 failed ceasefires. Only the 9th one stuck. No such back and forth this time, at least so far, which means it is time to look ahead, to dissect the war. Did either side cross the red line? Did they commit war crimes? The United Nations Human Rights Council debated this on Thursday. There was a proposal to investigate Israeli actions, only Israeli actions. Both sides fired rockets, both sides sustained casualties. But the UNHRC only wants to probe Israel's actions. This is how the 47 members voted. 24 countries backed the proposal. They want an investigation into Israel. 9 countries voted against it and 14 countries abstained. They did not want to take sides. Now, most major countries came there with a decided mind. The likes of China and Russia voted for a probe into Israel's actions. China and Russia. Germany and Britain voted against it. How did India vote? India chose to play it safe. India was one of the 14 countries that abstained. So what is India's strategy here? They say silence speaks volumes. What does India's silence at the United Nations say? A lot. And unfortunately, nothing good. This is not the first United Nations vote on Israel and Palestine. It will not be the last. And every time there has been a vote, India turned up with a different strategy. If you look at the last 20 years, India's voting pattern is all over the place. Sometimes supporting Palestine's right to self-determination, sometimes opposing inquiries into Israel. India is making a habit of this. Look at this year's annual UNHRC session. It concluded in the month of March. There were 15 resolutions on the table. India abstained 7 times. And some of these resolutions were overlapping. I'll give you an example. India skipped a vote on rights abuses in Palestine, but it supported a resolution condemning Israel for evictions and occupation. So what was India trying to say here? At the same session, India skipped another key vote, the one against Sri Lanka. It was quite similar to Thursday's resolution. It talked about Tamil reconciliation and accountability for war crimes. India abstained. It did not matter eventually because the resolution was passed anyway. You see, the middle ground appears to be a safe place, but it's not. History looks back at neutral players as bystanders. Only countries with clear, decisive opinions end up becoming global players. Right now, India is hedging its bets, trying to play both sides. This is a tightrope walk, one that never ends. If you stay on it long enough, you will inevitably fall. And Thursday's abstention was proof of it. This is what India said at the Human Rights Council. We remain concerned about the continuing violence in Jerusalem, especially at Haram al-Sharif, or the Temple Mount, and other Palestinian territories, and about the possible eviction process in Sheikh Jarrah and Silwan neighborhoods in East Jerusalem. So India condemns the evictions, but India is non-committal on an investigation. This is murky messaging, to say the least. You cannot reach the peak of geopolitics by sitting on the fence. So what could India have done differently? For starters, taken their hands off the abstain button. India had valid reasons to go with either side. New Delhi is one of the oldest supporters of Palestine. On the flip side, a Hamas rocket killed an Indian national. But by abstaining, India is surrendering its global ambitions. To escape this cycle of indecisiveness, India needs to look at its own history, specifically the history of non-alignment. India never supported either of the Cold War powers, but it actively engaged in the conflict. Like during the Korean War of 1950, Indian diplomats played a key role in cementing peace. Not many people know this story, but that spirit is what India needs. Active engagement without taking sides. The fear that this will somehow destroy relationships is unfounded. In the last few years, India has grown closer to Israel. But in the West Bank, leaders still look up to India as one of their long-standing allies. The whole world uses this strategy because if you think about it, Israel's biggest allies support the Palestinian cause, whether it's the US or Europe. The bottom line is this: striking a balance and abstaining are two different things. One is active engagement, the other is surrendering responsibility. For a country with global ambitions like India, a series of abstentions is a sure shot path to irrelevance. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.